We've talked a lot about this guy, the Light Emperor. I worry. Is he good? Is he bad? He is the one who sent out the expedition that eventually ended up in Hallowfall. What were his reasons? Who is he? How powerful is he? And what kind of light is he using? The Light Emperor, is he evil? Light Crusade is coming to Azeroth. Let's see what this is all about.
By now, you have definitely heard about a new Light Emperor from the other side of Azeroth. However, new info reveals that not only is this empire bathed in the light incredibly powerful and a force to be reckoned with, but they, in fact, may not be so nice. As the dialogue states, they wouldn't take kindly to a lot of our races and classes from the Horde and the Alliance. The Kazakar humans are just a tiny expedition, and this emperor from the other continent is very likely closely connected to the Naru as he's getting their visions. Last time a light army got very powerful, Altered Draenor fell. Are these guys going to be the new villains, and is this going to be like a Yarel's army that has been building up power on Azeroth without us even knowing? They consider themselves the Arati Empire, the original Arati Empire. The light army is confirmed to come in midnight.
I am very interested to see how Tyrellian reacts to all of this, because he's very much, the light is literally interwoven into his DNA. That's why he's lived so long. But he's very much a zealot to his own version of the light. This flaming light is showing up, this Light Emperor, all this other shit. Is he going to be allied with them? Is he going to like them? Or is he going to see them as kind of a alternate version of what he probably views as the true light? We'll have to wait and see.
And if these guys return back to
the
their
Arathi
homeland,
are sus,
they might not take so kindly to the Vorgen or the Forsaken occupying it. Could the Fanatical Scarlets find a new ally, and are we in for an actual light crusade in the very near future? Actually playing WoW on your phone is possible with Awesome, this video sponsor. You can not only check in on your characters, but you can do things like pet battles and even fully play the game. Awesome allows you to control a computer through your phone completely free, available for Windows, iOS, and Android. It's super easy to use. Check out my link in the description, download the PC and the phone app, and just simply connect it. The free version is great, and you can control a desktop, transfer files and such, but the real deal is the game version with custom keyboards for various games other than just WoW, and you can enjoy AFK gaming at any time, anywhere with sound. Make sure to use my code ORON to get 7 days completely free only for the first 200 people. They also got a smart lock to turn off your PC at any time, as well as hot sales with up to 40% off on Pro and Game versions. Check out Awesome.
There it is.
So, I gotta say, this is one of the coolest bits of lore that Blizzard has done in quite a long time. I know some people might say, we've been talking about the other side of Azeroth for decades now, and really what has been hiding there for years, and this has just been what?
Like, everyone's expecting him to become a zealot. Yeah, you're talking about Tyrellian. Look, the one thing I will say about him is if you read the book, I didn't read the whole book yet, and I've only, gotten pieces of it, but the way he is portrayed in the book is actually much nicer than the way he's currently portrayed in the game. If you get to know Tyrellian, because he's portrayed as a dad, right? He's talking to Erator, making shitty dad jokes. The way he looks at Illyria and everything and talks about her and her shadow stuff. He comes off as actually very nice and understanding. Much nicer than he does in the game. So I'm wondering, are they kind of changing his tune a little bit? Do they not want him to completely go off the edge? Or is he going to fucking lose his mind? Who knows? But you can't... you can't read what everyone was expecting him to turn into some fascist zealot. I have to wonder if we're going to start offing all the Second War veterans. I have no idea. The Second War veterans, we how many are left? What do we have, Illyria and him? Who else is left? Because that was a long time ago. How much longer can they possibly live? He was extremely paranoid about the Dracthyr. Yes, he was. But rightfully so. They're kind of weird. But after Onyxia, I don't blame him, exactly. So, we'll have to see. I don't know, Tyrellian could turn one way or another. I at times, I like him, and then there are other times where, when he talked with Illidan back when the whole Zero thing, I was like, calm down, man. You don't see what's going on here? He comes off as a bit, naive.
Like the most basic of the races. However, I gotta say,
Khadgar is one of them. Yeah, that's true.
We had gotten over the years. The
and
humans are actually shocking. We found anything from Pandaren to dragons to bugs to old god minions. So finding a really well-developed human empire like Stormwind 2.0 is actually interesting, and it is even more interesting with the hints we had just gotten from the War Within Alpha. For some reason, people are shocked that Hellowfall is just an expedition, even though Blizzard literally told us this a few days after BlizzCon, and we had known that there is a kingdom on the mainland and unknown mainland. The only difference now
Right.
is that they actually told us who is leading them, why they're here, we learned more who they really are, and most interestingly, and the entire point of this video, these guys may not actually be our allies, and this might literally be the fanatical light army of the Naru and Yrel that conquered Draenor, just the Azeroth version, that has been building up to a crazy extent on a new continent that we never even knew about.
We'll have to see. I don't know how true that could be, because these new Arathi that came, they're all like half elves. Like they made it, you know, they intermingled with a bunch of elves, and always the lightbound people kind of come off as like Puritans, like they can't intermingle with other races and stuff like that. So, I mean, either that or the humans and the elves themselves have become light fanaticals together, and they're allowed to intermingle with each other because they're all half elves pretty much. All the Hallowfell people are half elves, whether or not they were by the time they got there, or whether they intermingled. It had to be before, because these events only happened like 15 years ago, where they came to Hallowfall. So it had to happen before. I guess that entire kingdom is okay with that stuff, but like the Scarlet Monastery would not be. They're just humans. That's it.
Already, you probably heard about them. I don't want to repeat myself too much, and speculation aside, let me just give you the straight facts we had gotten from the dialogues in the alpha on who they actually are. So, about 2,000-3,000 years ago, all the humans were united under the Arathi Empire, and before the known kingdom split that happened on the Eastern Kingdoms, these guys had ventured across the sea. However, these guys are not a new kingdom. They call themselves the Arathi Empire, and despite the fact that we always say the Arathi Empire fell and then split into the 7 human kingdoms, it appears that these guys probably don't believe that is the case, and their leader is the Emperor of the Arathi Empire. This might not be vibing with the fact that Stromgarde considers itself the successor of the Empire, but it is likely that these people that have left have been the ruling family, which is interesting as one of them is called Lothar, and as we may know, Anduin Lothar was considered one of the last descendants of the Imperial blood.
Badass. He's a badass. Yeah, 15 years ago probably would put us around vanilla timeline. I don't know when BC came out. I forgot, but it would be right around maybe that transition between the two, right? When did it come out? 2008, 2009 was BC, was it? So, it would have been like just into that transition where we went through the Dark Portal, they went to Hallowfall kind of thing.
So this isn't actually the 8th human kingdom that we had believed in the past, but very likely the 2nd empire, and I'm guessing, according to their version of the history, the first and the only one. Almost certainly this voyage across the sea happened after the Troll Wars, because it wasn't just the humans. As we learned from the dialogue, originally humans and elves had ventured on this voyage together, which is why this empire seems to be half elven or very mixed with the elves. So far we have discovered straight out human models, Kultiran models, regular elven models, as well as all the models with elven or human ears, so half elves and half humans. What is interesting is that apparently these elves that went with them are elves that were sent to the humans to teach them magic. This confirms that this happened after the Troll Wars, as the original agreement was that the humans would help Quotalas in the Troll Wars if they taught the magic. Even more interestingly, they seem to be riding lynxes that are very likely brought from Quotalas. They may be native to Quotalas, and they're using some words of the Elven language. Now, here this split becomes incredibly interesting. It is likely that this happened some 2,000 years ago, which means that these guys had an entirely different developmental path than the rest of the humans. I mean, imagine, 2,000 years is a really long time. The place they ventured to is almost certainly the other side of Azeroth, as recent documents hinted, beyond the Storming Sea, the place no one could reach. How they crossed
I keep wondering if Avaloran, if we're going to go there like in some kind of patch, like that seems like crazy, an entire continent just from a patch. Or if it's going to be part of an expansion, or maybe something that happens beyond the World Soul Saga. Maybe they're setting us up for what happens after the World Soul Saga. But it just seems like if they're going to introduce a whole continent, it has to be either some kind of expansion thing or multi-expansion thing.
It is hard to predict, but it is likely their airships might have played an advantage, as well as their knowledge of the light. What we do know is that they're completely isolated from everyone, as we never heard about these guys in the past. Very likely on the continent called Avaloran, especially with the symbolisms of the name Avalon from real-world mythology, the mystical island. However, here it gets really tricky. So when I say isolated, you're probably thinking these guys are like stuck on some island, barely holding on. They can't even get back to the Eastern human kingdoms. However, by
thriving.
all the alpha evidence, it seems like they might have reached the promised land and that their new continent is better than the original one. Very likely, this is not just a small island. The
WoW
reason I'm
2.
saying this is because there is new dialogue we had gotten from Ferin Lothar and Anduin. Anduin asks about this empire, and Ferin, that was originally born there, says the empire is vast, very powerful, and bathed in the light. In fact, the empire is
Sounds
a
badass.
serious force to be reckoned with. This would literally explain the entire pirate hint from Night Scroll that we had gotten in Dragonflight, as apparently the pirate reached an unknown land
I laugh when I see this because we were all so convinced we were getting a pirate expansion.
and gathered loot
At least
we
I
had
was.
never seen before. It is likely now that the pirates had raided the Emperor's coasts, which once again signals that they are very rich. Now, dialogues from other NPCs tells us that these guys are very fanatical. We see them saying like how they're bringing the light to these godforsaken lands, my life for the Empire, my life for the Emperor. And the whole reason these guys even reach this place is because the Emperor apparently had a vision. They're calling the crystal Beledar the Emperor's vision. By all accounts, they all seem to be sort of a hive mind. Now that brings us to the Hellfall, the Kazlagar humans. So the new info states that they only arrived here 15 years ago, very likely around the time of Cataclysm, and the
Right.
Shattering may have given the Emperor the vision.
Oh, so we said BC time. Maybe he's putting it around Cataclysm time.
That part is my speculation. The ever-knowing Emperor had gotten a vision of the falling star in the final battle between the Void and the Light that was supposed to occur in a place called Renilash. Keep in mind, this is a name that we had never heard before. He then sent his light fanatical branch, as remember, the entire empire is light-based, but these
Right.
guys are, according to Blizzard, the Uber Paladins. So imagine that these guys are something like a much larger Silver Hand or like an Argent Crusade. Instead of reaching Renilash to fight the Void in this final battle, instead, they were caught in a storm and randomly teleported to the Crystal Beledar. Then they immediately got attacked by Nerubians. They lost all their mages in a crash. Originally, they intended to open portals so that the main force of the Empire can actually...
Well, you gotta you talking about the Scarlet Crusade. I gotta wonder if the Scarlet Crusade just borrowed Arathi religious trappings, or if the design is just a coincidence. We gotta remember too, though, a lot of the Scarlet Crusade was, Dreadlord influenced, right? And it doesn't. Dreadlord could have possibly known about the Arathi on the other side of the world and how they work and what their religions were and everything else, and then use that knowledge to influence what the Scarlet Crusade eventually became, right? So it's possible that even though the Scarlets themselves didn't know about the Arathi, their leader could have, because he was a Dreadlord. So he could have known.
come in, but now they're stuck. Now, what I find incredibly weird is how crazy developed these guys are for like a half-successful, nearly failed expedition that has only been here for 15 years. I mean, their architecture is insanely detailed, like work of masters that would take a developed industry, resources, and everything. So this is very likely just gameplay. I mean, it wouldn't be cool to find these guys in like makeshift buildings and tents,
yeah.
but it might also
We've done
be
that before.
evidence
We've had expansions where you just stayed in tents. It's called WAD.
of what the actual empire is.
Our
If
cities
they're
were just
isolated
tents.
and half their stored expedition is this well developed and powerful, like what is their mainland even like? We seriously might be looking at the most developed empire on all of Azeroth. I mean, just check out how our alliance expanded after Warcraft 3, and imagine that these guys were literally living in a parallel timeline on this new continent. However, this here is the hint that I want you guys to check out. So Anduin was talking with Ferin Lothar, who is not actually their leader. I mean, she's just a random girl that got caught on the ship, lost her arm when this teleportation happened, and then the light guys just told her, essentially, we don't really care. I mean, you're going to have to be a soldier anyway, which kind of shows you how devoted they are to their mission and how kind of ruthless they are. After learning about the Arathi Empire, Anduin says he would like to visit once and discover this parallel empire, but Ferin doesn't really think that would be a good idea. She says, to be honest, I'm not sure how the mainland would take to the variety of peoples you all keep company with, particularly you, for embracing the darkness as you have. This part seems to be referring to the player character. Then she says, we in Hellfall have allied with you because we beggars can be choosers, but the Empire is neither open-minded nor desperate as we are, and then she says she would rather live in this new Stormwind she just learned about instead. So
damn, so she talked about how great this city was, how advanced it was, but that she doesn't really want to go back, and that they wouldn't accept the current player character into their kingdom. So yeah, they must be like hyper strict. That's obvious at that point, but whether or not they're good or evil, we still don't know.
like a very
You could
subtle
be
villain
strict and
brush
still
for the
good.
Empire and the Emperor. At this point in time, it can really go either way. They might eventually change their mind on other races if the Hell of all humans escape and they explain that we are
Yes.
their
Stoic.
allies, or they might become even more radical. However, all the other hints constantly talked about how they are very powerful, how they're very well developed, so we're not really looking at a Kultiras here, but very likely a new Stormwind or Lordaeron or something much bigger. Now, here is where it gets incredibly interesting. Now, the vision Emperor had gotten has been confirmed to be the same Radiant song that Anduin has gotten in the cinematic, and the Light versus Void final battle is very likely the same vision that Velen had gotten in the past. This means that very likely the Emperor is in direct contact with the Naru and the big Light guys, and his view on the Light may not be the same as the humans that we know of. You need to keep in mind, the human Church of Light is very rudimentary, very basic. It has only really started becoming a thing after the Troll Wars. Human priests had visions of angelic beings and genetic.
I mean, they could be outcasts, Egg, but the way that, they've said themselves they were sent by their emperor, so I don't know if they would be outcasts or they're an elite squad that was sent over. Now, the story also goes that there were more blimps than the ones that eventually, only one showed up. It was teleported into Hellowfall by the light. They don't know how they ended up there, but the rest were lost in a massive storm. So this was like an army. This wasn't just like a crack squad of, a couple of guys that we actually see in Hellowfall right now. There was more. So I do think they were probably sent by their emperor. But maybe some have kind of turned since then, realized that this strict kingdom they left behind was not the way to go.
Forms, and they coded this into words. They did kind of communicate with the Naru, but they barely even scratched the surface. They didn't even know what the Naru are. We know definitely that the humans get an incredibly basic understanding because they only really discovered the Naru in the Light Army a decade ago when all of us did. However,
it's like the light version of the Twilight's Hammer.
When this development started happening, and it is very likely that they may now have a completely different concept of the light, especially as they're wielding this holy fire that they're powering their ships with. It is almost certain that this isn't the same light that we are using.
That's what I've been saying.
Discovered light undead, so they may literally be raising undead with this version of the light. Previously, we thought we are the ones wielding the fanatical light. The Empire may teach us the more benevolent version, but it could literally be the other way around. They may be the ones that are like the Yrel of Azeroth, raising light undead and sending crusades to conquer the world. This, of course, raises incredible implications.
Maybe they were sent on a crusade and they got lost. But they were supposedly sent because of this vision of this falling crystal, whatever. Like their light emperors saw this thing, had a vision of it, and then sent them out on it. So whether or not they were on a crusade or not to claim it, who knows? But I mean, you could be right, Stoic. They could just be, the idiots that are left over, or the ones that were dumb enough to believe this vision and go actually find it. I want to know who or what zapped them where they are. We don't know yet. It could be the Naru inside the crystal that did it, if there is one there. So I'm sure we're going to figure that part of the story out.
The World Soul Saga, as we know, in Midnight, we will be in the Eastern Kingdoms, the original homeland of the Irati Empire, where the light will come to battle the Void in the final battle. Originally, the Emperor sent this expedition to battle the Void. These guys may now bring their full force to our lands, and they may not want to leave. As the rightful Irati Emperor, they might believe that the northern Eastern Kingdoms are there by right,
Maybe.
and that the Vorgen and the Forsaken must be purged. In fact, even more interestingly, they could find their allies in the almost destroyed Scarlet Crusade. Recently, we had Scarlets transforming into light elementals and claiming that they will purge our stain from the world. Even more interestingly, the main city of the Scarlets was called Avalon, and these guys may be on Avalon. Maybe a huge reach, but maybe they did in fact have some contact through the light channels. The Emperor might have actually known about us while we just learned about him. Of course, it is too early to speculate, but this might be some of the coolest lore that is going to come to Warcraft, and it might also be the first time that the Alliance races are going to be the villains and the fanatics. Thanks for watching. Check out our video who is the final boss of the war video by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on Roman mythology and the cult of Mithras by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.
Interesting thought that it's already been kind of confirmed, through Metzen at BlizzCon, that we are going to kind of side with the light to fight against the void, right, at midnight. So you could imagine that these Arathi coming over, helping us, we defeat the void, and then they kind of don't want to leave, right? They decide, you know what, we're going to claim this land for our own. And that whole thing goes down where we're trying to tell them, okay, it's time to go. Thanks for helping, and they don't want to go, and instead they want to convert everybody to their way of doing things. Could lead to a battle in the Last Titan. Who knows? But what I do know is this lore is really cool, and I can't wait to explore it more.